Hello, potential Fox game runner. My name's Rad, and I threw together an impromptu tutorial on Kingsley's Adventure Any Percent on stream a few nights ago. It goes over the entire hour-long run in about 2 hours, repeats a lot of sections to demonstrate positioning, and so I can talk at length about how I think through the setups and that kind of thing. The entire stream has an input display from my controller, so at any point you can go back and watch sections to see what inputs I use for analog stick, D-pad, buttons, etc. And I'm not using any kind of special bindings. What you see on my controller is pretty much what you'd press on a PlayStation controller. I'm going to cut into stream where I start to talk about some of the tech I found on tasvideos.org. Shout out to the people who found all this stuff many years ago. My run would not be possible without it. And without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. So the game's collision detection code is like ejection style, right? So if it detects you're like clipping into something, it'll try to push you out of it. But if you can find a 90-degree corner or smaller, they can be exploited pretty easily. It's like if you apply force equal to the ejection force, well, opposite to the ejection force. So if it's trying to push you out to the left and you're using like the strafe button to also walk to the right, it doesn't know what to do, and so it just pushes you up. And so you can kind of take advantage of that to push against the ejection into a corner. So like if an enemy hits you, which would normally push you away, and that would be a corner, and then the collision detection tries to put you out, but you're pushing against the corner, it'll actually just pop you straight up on top of the wall. So sometimes you can do that without assistance. Like if the angle is really narrow, like if you wedge yourself into a very acute corner, like very, very tight angle, then you can usually just jump or backflip at a certain angle, which you usually kind of have to play around with, and it'll just pop you to the top automatically. But if it's like a 90-degree corner, which because the game is very static and like geometric, there's lots of 90-degree corners that are not embellished or anything, then you can kind of use an enemy, you kite them over, you get them to attack you from like the left or the right, and then you just use the strafing and the D-pad movement or something, some kind of standard setup to counterbalance the ejection force, and then use the enemy's damage and push back to knockback. Knockback is probably a better term, to pop up on top of the wall. So that's like, we're going to be seeing that everywhere in the run. So once you kind of understand the concept of up warps, like then we start to use that to break the game. Both you can just like straight up skip rooms and cut out a bunch of content in the game, but that only gets you so far. One of the things you can do though is collect keys, but then use the up warps to skip the doors. Then for whatever reason, not only are the keys in every area generic, so if you get like a banana key and you don't use it in the second dungeon and you keep it until the fourth dungeon, it will just unlock all the banana doors in the fourth dungeon. There's not a ton of overlap, so it is kind of funny how the key routing ends up working. It's super convenient because it lets you skip some of the hardest rooms in the game at the end of in the fourth dungeon. And to be honest, I don't think I would have had the patience to run this game if those key skips did not exist to skip those rooms. And then I guess some other minor stuff is that load zones extend infinitely into the sky. So in some cases you can just like hit them early by kind of jumping to what seems like might be your death or out of bounds. You see that a little bit in the first dungeon. And also you can hit those load zones when you're like standing on top of a wall, to kind of transition the room without having to fall back down where you sometimes take damage. I'm going to go ahead and reset and unpause, I guess, before I do that. I do think my capture is stretched a little bit, so there's not letterboxing. So if this doesn't look exactly like what you see if you try to play this game, that's not entirely intentional, but it's not bad enough that it bothers me too much. There they are. There he is. Okay. So yeah, this is just going to be my route. It's not by any means the best. I'm sure it can be improved on a lot. I'm not going to have the most technical or task-based answers to explain why half this stuff works. This is just kind of what I've come up with. And I hope this is a better resource than just watching, my run. So time starts when you hit A here. I believe, like technically, when we time this, I look for the first frame of movement, because otherwise, like, you can't tell that a button was pressed. And then the run ends when Bad Custer's health bar disappears, the first frame where the health bar is not visible. So it's actually pretty precise. It's easy to time in that sense. Obviously, I'm not going to time this run, but we're going to do the best we can to explain stuff as we go. I do want to keep in the intro movie. I do just want to say here that you can skip it easily by just mashing. It is a shame that you can skip this, to be honest.
The kingdom was not always so peaceful. An evil wizard disguised as a chef stole the Queen's Book of Magic and sent the kingdom spiraling into despair. One by one, the defenders of the realm were overcome by Bad Custard's evil magic and forced to become the Dark Knights, the scourge of the kingdom. All hope seemed lost until an unlikely hero emerged to challenge the tyranny of the evil rodent. Kingsley, an orphan fox cub, small in size but large in spirit.
That's a good intro movie. I like that. So you have to move forward immediately when you get control and then just mash through the text boxes. The text boxes can be skipped with X or cross or circle. I kind of just roll my fingers across them. Sometimes that can initiate a dialogue again, so you'll just kind of have to practice. You just want to walk right in here. That's it. Not that tough. Technically, you can try to mash triangle as this text box interaction with this man ends, and it will skip the dialogue from freezing you in place in the next room. So we'll see if that happens. If not, just skip through it. Yo, let's go. So nothing much to this front room. There is technically a skip, an out-of-bounds skip for this area, but it's pretty much blind, and I've never really been able to replicate it. So there's no major tricks to the tutorial section. It's just something you're gonna get a pretty consistent time in when you kind of just learn what to do here. This guy's gonna give you a sword. You're basically gonna 2 hits in, he's gonna run, 2 hits. Sometimes you'll get hit if you're just not close enough, and then he'll complain if he hits you enough. This just kind of feels like RNG. You never know where he's gonna run. And when he's done, you just go into the room, you head to the left, you pick up the arrows and immediately switch to them, because you're gonna need to use them in the next 2 rooms. So first, I use the D-pad for finer control of aiming. It's like almost impossible for me to use the analog stick to aim. And then of course R1, oh, see, I tapped the analog stick and it just like ruined my aim there. So that's probably where you're gonna lose the most time in the tutorial split, is just aiming. But pick up the key, head back a couple rooms, head to the left, and then you have to come to a full stop. So these little switches, keyholes, whatever the textures on the wall, if you just run up, you'll just swing your sword. If you're moving the joystick or the D-pad at all, or strafing or anything, you won't be able to use the switches. So come to a full stop, activate it. You're gonna skip a text box here. Just go press the switch. Now, you're gonna get 2 text boxes here before you can actually interact with this block. There's this little orange texture that's just to the right of me right now. like literally to the right of me. I'm going to try to position the edge of the box kind of in the middle of that. That's about my visual cue for how far to pull back the box, and then you just go to the right and push it forward until it locks into place. And then exit the room. You're just going to have to get used to the tank controls. I don't know of any tips. Get used to strafing. Strafing can help you a lot. You can strafe while you're in midair jumps. So it doesn't make a ton of sense, but the better you get at the tank controls, the more time you're going to save, more recovery you're going to be able to pull off if you jump at the wrong angle. Anyway, you have to give the dagger back to, I think his name is Old Wrinkle. This is not Old Wrinkle. This is the trainer. Old Wrinkle is the guy we talked to earlier. But now all you have is a shield. You can jump over this couch, which is funny to me. You smash through this. And Old Wrinkle's like, hey, go talk to the... Or maybe you do keep the dagger. It doesn't matter. You start the game with the dagger. You're going to want to turn to the left here. Go talk to the king and queen. You initiate conversation with them with the circle button. You can just smash through. Kingsley will say, Seatown, I'm on my way. You get the key to get into the basement, and then you just kind of continue around to the left. I like to hit the L1 button to lock the camera in place. Just a little bit more comfortable when you're running kind of a route you know. It seems like the camera swings a little bit less. And I think also, this is anecdotal, but I feel like maybe there's less slowdown when it's angled down in some cases. It might just be because of how different it feels. So you're gonna run all the way to the end of the hallway to the right to get the apple key, and then immediately use it here. The challenge in this next room is going to be stopping to hit the switch. If you don't hit it immediately, the spiders are going to come up behind you, and then the game will automatically try to swing at them or kick at them instead of... I went to the wrong hallway, sorry. Instead of pressing the switch. And then you want to drop into this foxhole, and you press triangle to cancel. There's no sense in saving if you're going to be speedrunning. Jumping into those foxholes, by the way, is something you will accidentally mess up a lot. It is like actually kind of precise, so don't feel too bad if you can't get it. I still mess it up all the time. In the casual game, of course, there's lots of characters to run around and talk to, but we're just going to want to head directly to this like barrel building. I like to strafe in here. I usually split when you enter into Seatown, and then you're going to jump over the counter and just walk toward Briny Jim. You don't have to initiate the conversation. It happens automatically. And then now we're in the lighthouse. Anytime there's a wall sinking, I try to like time when I'm jumping so that I have some kind of visual cue, like, oh, I can jump a little bit early and get into the load zone before the thing falls all the way. But you'll just have to feel that out for yourself. Now, as soon as we go in, I'm going to jump over the rope and into the load zone here. Sometimes Kingsley doesn't even make it into the load zone. Okay. So, first room of the dungeon, you just run through. It doesn't even matter really what you do. Even if you take damage, you're going to almost immediately heal up. Even the coins are pretty irrelevant. You almost never like get enough money to recover. I usually try to slink over to the right here just so I don't hit this anchor. I'm using the D-pad for movement here because the rooms are just so geometric. Yep, I'm just gonna walk straight through here. We're gonna pick up the health impact and health impact? What does that mean? Don't worry about it. So I'm gonna try to wedge myself into this corner. I'm actually gonna go ahead and save state here. And I'm going to be holding forward, and I'm going to be holding the right trigger to strafe to the right. I'm going to take damage from an enemy on the left. I'm going to try to jump and anticipate their attack so that I take damage when I'm kind of at the apex of my jump or somewhere near it. And then if all goes well, I'm going to snap up to the top of the wall, and I'm going to almost immediately let go of the right strafe. If I hold down right strafe, when I get on top of the wall, I'm gonna walk right off the wall and die. So let's see that in fast motion and see if I can pull it off here. Okay. Review the tape if you want to see the button inputs for that, and I'll just do it again. Nice. You'll find that when you start to practice these, they're pretty free. Sometimes you'll have to get hit by an enemy 2 or 3 times. Sometimes their own attacks will upwarp other enemies up to you. So you can fall off here, but see, you take damage. To transition back down to the wall, you're going to take fall damage. So instead, see, if I hold down the strafe for too long, I also die. So the timing is pretty tight. You'll kind of figure it out with practice. I'm going to do that one more time so I'm just not like super low on health. But if you just keep walking on the wall, you'll hit the load zone. So you're good. All right, this room, there's not really like a fast cycle. You just kind of want to grab the health here, and then the checkpoint, wait for this barrel to roll by, and then head out. Not too bad. Okay, this room, I have a little weird tech for. I'm going to try to see if I can demonstrate how not to do it. Let's see what happens. I like to L1 the camera and then use the D-pad. Now, perfect. Okay, good. So if you just hold forward and you kind of time your jumps, you unfortunately end up on a cycle where a cannonball hits you. Right when you'd want to jump off of one of the platforms, you lose your momentum, you fall in the water, you have to do the room over again. So instead, what I like to do is strafe to the right after about the second platform and then strafe back to the middle while we end the room. So let's try that. And then I just strafe to the right around this person, and we're good. That's the room. Okay. This is another weird one. So there's a load zone you can reach if you jump off of the edge of that cliff just to the left of those rocks. But you need to jump basically at the end of your coyote frames, and you need a full jump with full momentum to hit it. You'll hit it toward the end of your fall. The game will make it look like you've taken some kind of death or damage, but you won't. You'll just warp to the next room. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The way I saw in other people's runs is something like this, where you just kind of strafe to the left off, run at the edge, turn a little bit, and jump. And there you go. You hit the load zone. It's a little sketch, though, because at the very end, you kind of have to change your angle to jump a little bit to the left of the way you're facing. It's a very consistent setup at the beginning. What I've started doing, because it's a little bit faster, is just tilting the camera to about here with the D-pad and then just running. So I think that's personally faster. Now, what does it look like if you don't get it? If you just jump off and you just kind of miss? Okay, so sometimes it's actually easier than it looks. But if you jump a little early, you'll just snap back, and then it's awkward because then you're like, well, what position do I have to get back in? So there you go. I was aiming a little bit too far to the left that time. All right. And we ride our little $5 raft from Walmart. And there's not a ton of tricks to this screen. If you are low on health, it's a good place to fuel up. Just kind of hang to the right to miss these barrels. There is going to be a jump that kind of comes out of nowhere after this ramp. You have to be ready to just kind of hit that jump. And when you get to the top of this spiral ramp, what I like to do is turn and strafe to the right so the camera's facing this direction, so that when you teleport, you're already facing the correct way to run. For whatever reason, the game like maintains that when you warp. So I'm gonna strafe here. Probably should have preempted that with the description, but right before the first jump, just kind of make yourself parallel with the edge of the cliff and then jump off and you hit a load zone. It's pretty straightforward. And then we're at the boss. It's Gallagher, who's working for Rex, the Dark Knight, I think. There's not a ton of strategy to Gallagher. Like, at the beginning of the fight, run up, get a double hit in if you can, and I just kind of strafe left and right to not get hit by him when he comes back on land, run up and get a couple hits. You just kind of rinse and repeat. He'll fire somewhere between 1 and 3 cannonball blasts. Musket? I don't know. What kind of gun is this? I'm not a gun person. Blunderbuss. I like to kind of circle strafe around, and whenever you get close to death, he'll just keep attacking you, so you need to be able to be ready to kind of mash attack. And then you can just kind of mash through this. If you're low on health for whatever reason, you can get more health here, but that wastes time. There's going to be a path leading to this ship. This is the ship Gallagher stole that you need to return to the folks of Seatown. There's a path of coins that's going to... No matter which way you're oriented in the boss fight, just look for the path of coins, and that's the way you want to go. And that's it. Coins are kind of worthless. It's cool if you pick some up, but again, you're not really going to get enough to make it matter. So yeah, not many critical tricks in Dungeon 1. They're all pretty straightforward. Not a lot of time loss if you miss them or have to repeat them. We name this person Phil, even though his name is Briny Jim. It's 3 text boxes, and then you just want to leave through the foxhole. Again, aiming at this to jump into it is a nightmare. You'll see me snap that camera with L1 as quickly as I can. It might just be urban legend, though. I'm not sure how much it helps. I feel like it just makes the camera a little better for me. So you want to exit, turn left out of the library, or whatever room that is, and down this hallway you'll be back into the main room. And then turn to the right, talk to the king and queen. You can mash here. I didn't do it in the example, but you can mash because it'll end with the door opening. So there's no danger of like over mashing. Sometimes I like to jump through the pond, but as you can see, sometimes it doesn't work. So like, I wouldn't do the fountain jump unless you were really planning on routing coins in. And now we're into Poor Luck Village. This is also where I split whenever the screen goes black here. There's a lot of text to mash through right here, but you gotta be careful not to overmash here. Whenever he says footsteps, that's kind of the end, and then you just run to the right of the sword and follow the footsteps on the ground into the second dungeon. I would definitely make a save state at the load of this next room because this one is one to practice. Gonna go ahead and pause and make my own. So the normal way to do this room is to like run up and hit a switch and try to like run over and hit the other switch, and then this flame turns off. The flame hitbox is actually true to what's visible though. So like you can just like go through it if you get the timing right, but it's an instant kill if you don't. Right, so, and if you just hold forward on the D-pad from the beginning of the room, I believe you'll just die. Yeah. However, if you just tap off the D-pad and then press it again and hold, Like, basically just take a beat off of the D-pad. You'll walk through it every time. So, like, I'm holding the D-pad right now. I usually wait till I get near the treasure chest for whatever reason. That's just, like, my mental cue. Off, on, and we're fine. So, you'll have to experiment with the timing there. But it's free, and it's, like, pretty mandatory if you want to time save here. Nothing to this room. Make the key spawn, and then use it. Now, you could technically skip this door without doing the side room, but I like to do the side room to do a key setup, like a skip for way later in the game. So because generating this key brings in spiders, I like to go ahead and get the key here, then divert to the left and unlock this room by pressing the switches on either side of this statue. One thing about this game's tank controls is, like, your movement through an area is going to feel sketchy every single time. Like, you'll never be able to repeat your movement twice, so just get used to that. So in this room, you got to follow a pattern to unlock the room, which is, like, move to the right, walk all the way to the back, move all the way to the left, and then just kind of zigzag. So at a minimum, you want to grab this key, because the pineapple key is what we want to save to, like, the 4th dungeon. If you're playing for safety or marathon strats, come over here and grab this extra life too, and then exit. And then you're going to have, like, a teleporter coming down on a pedestal. Just hop in that. Okay, so this is first up warp in the 2nd dungeon. This is gonna look a little weird. I'm gonna try to talk through it, but this is more of a muscle memory thing for me. You want to run over to the pineapple door, but here we have an acute angle, and if I just wedge my fox body in like this, I'm gonna hold forward, I'm gonna rotate the camera, and I'm holding right trigger. So I'm, like, strafing to the right and also walking forward. I'm gonna backflip as quickly as I can. Okay, that didn't work. So I'm basically looking for the wall to disappear. I went way too fast that time. So coming in here. Sometimes it doesn't wedge. If it doesn't, just backflip and kind of run forward again. Wiggle the joystick back and forth a little bit. Okay. Backflip. There you go. I'm going to save state right here real quick just to do this a few times quickly. See, it's not... Okay, wedge. Rotate till you can't... That wall just disappeared, and then backflip. So we're skipping the pineapple door by doing this, right? One more time in fast motion. So, now we're actually going to use the grape key to open this door. It might be possible to skip this door, but these enemies don't pursue you. So you can't get them to, like, run over to help you skip anything. And I'm not really sure what you'd use the grape key for anyway. Maybe if there's an endeavoring router out there that wants to figure out what to use this for and a way to skip out of this room, they can. But when I walk forward, there's going to be 2 enemies that spawn. One spawns on the wall for some reason and immediately dies. And the other one is just chilling here. What I like to do is push him out of the way, put the grape key in, and then just run past. And then that's the end of the room. So let's do that in fast motion again. I'm gonna wedge in. Oh, I got wedged out here. Okay, rotate. Holding the right trigger, backflip. Trigger this enemy. And we're out. Now, anybody that's played the game casually is gonna love what we do for this next level. I'm just gonna run through it once. I like to run off this corner. Okay. That's weird. Let's try that again. Yeah, the cloud usually appears if you just run off the corner, kind of. There you go. You can grab this heart, and then just kind of run against the arrows. I kind of try to hug the left wall, because you want to get these enemies to the left of you. Otherwise, they come in right behind you. That's it. That's how you do the room. So let's talk about that again. So run to the right here. You don't really have to trigger the checkpoint because you're not going to be using the cloud. Run up here. You can get the heart if you want. I skipped it because I'm bad with tank controls. And this third enemy, if you just run right for this corner and you hold the strafe or forward, right? Because you're kind of trying to offset the force of if they hit you from behind or from the side. They just wail on you, and it never like pushes you enough to like offset the ejection, collision detection to like snap you up. So I usually feel like I have to kite them to the left a little bit, so when they approach me, they're approaching me from the right in some fashion, so that it snaps me up. So I'm going to save state here. So like kind of get him to come over to the right, and then yeah, there you go. Sometimes, most times, the enemy will like warp up here with you. If you're low on health, I like to run back and just grab that, but then it's risky, as you can see. Okay, we'll just leave. That room I've had to practice a lot, by the way, just to be clear. Made it look easier than it is. I've died a lot there. I've experimented with different routes, different angles to kind of kite enemies in different ways. You'll find something that works for you, but that's at least one way you can do it. That area where you pop up is actually not even the only 90-degree angle in the room. So there's lots of options. Kingsley is definitely the kind of speed game where a lot can go wrong and a lot can kind of like be just slightly outside of your expectations. So you need to be ready to pivot or have backups for like how to deal with awkward situations, which you'll only learn as you practice it. All right, I'm gonna try not to speed through the lava room this time. Now, it's technically possible to not get the green key in this room and to upwarp over the door and, just leave the room. Problem is the enemy is too far away from you. If you try to wedge, you know what, actually, I'll just show it. If you try to wedge yourself in here, it's very hard to get the upwarp. Because it's like the angle the enemy's at and the distance is just weird enough where it doesn't quite work. Now, you can kind of reposition him as he blocks. And see, it did the upwarp. I don't have enough health to survive the hits, but if you push him toward the corner, then you can technically get the upwarp there, but it takes time to set that up. Sometimes it fails. What I find to be more consistent is just to run over here and get the key and then use the key. I think I have tried, I'm fairly certain that I have tried to grab this key and leave the dungeon without it. And it is still removed from my inventory. It's like one of the only keys that, for whatever reason, does not maintain. So you can either kill him or push him out of the way so you can use the key and then proceed. If you want to experiment with like saving that key or just saving time, be my guest. So this is, you have a choice here. You can either run up these stairs, jump on the cloud, collect the banana key and proceed, or there's a safety chest to the right. The safety chest has hearts in it. You definitely lose time collecting them, but it will make the next skip easier. There's also a checkpoint here if you're afraid of this jump, and I think this chest just has coins, but they're like valuable coins. And it's about 5 coins, probably not worth it. As you can see, I do not usually come over here. I like to do this jump from here. There you go. Run across the keys, or just in this general direction. There's a switch where you put the banana key. Even though there are little spiders in here, you can't really use the smaller earners to upwarp. I like to kill this guy. You can push him out of the way, you can just run up to that switch and hit it and take damage. I think it's worth the safety to collect this key. Don't use the key on this chest. In fact, why don't we find out what's in this chest? Okay. You could use it here to get coins, but let's save it. I'll show you why in a little bit. This next room is one of the harder skips, mostly because you need a lot of health to be able to pull it off in one go, and you have to take a death to use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and save here. This is the pineapple key skip. We already have a pineapple key, so we could just like run up and use it here. Or sorry, no, this is a cherry. We need, this is like a double key room. We just wanna be able to get out of this room without completing it casually. And we wanna save our pineapple key. This is a really long room casually where you have to go all the way to the end of the hallway, come back, flip a switch, go all the way to the end again, come back. It's really long. It's actually pretty hard too. So I'm just gonna strafe around, make these jumps. I'm gonna kite this guy to swing, walk over here so he goes to the left, and then so he approaches from the right. And see, I held the keys for just a little bit too long. So let's try that again in fast motion. This is the best setup I found. There's probably a better one. So bring him over to the left. Okay. Notice I was pressing forward and holding that right trigger. Get that pop-up. So we're gonna wanna turn all the way around. I just hold forward on the D-pad and use left and right trigger to kind of strafe to stay on top of the wall. We're gonna wanna jump over here. And then there's, if you can see, there is a teleporter pad down there. We're gonna need to fall into that. So you just kind of point toward the opposite corner and walk forward, and you'll fall in. And then you'll immediately die in the next room, but that's intended. There's no way to take that skip without using a life. So let's try that again, all in fast motion. You just need this guy to up warp you in this corner. If you come up with a better way to do that. You don't even have to like fine tune the turnaround as long as you just get to the end of this hallway. Cool. And even though it looks like you're great, as soon as you appear on the other side, you'll die. All right. This room. So this is probably the biggest time save in the dungeon, because normally this room opens sort of a whole side adventure where you go find one of the characters trapped in a cage, you free them to help you later after the boss. There's like a whole section in a library where it's dark. There's a bunch of stuff we don't want to do. What we're going to do instead is run around the room, hit the 4 switches in the corners, and get that banana key up on the pedestal. When I get to the pedestal, there's a chance that the enemies chasing me will join me on the pedestal. And that's bad, because then when they try to walk off, they'll die from fall damage, and then we won't have any enemies to upwarp with, and we're kind of soft locked until we die, but then we don't have any way to death warp either. So what I like to do is run around, hit the switches, jump up, get the key, and immediately backflip, even if I take damage from the enemies, just so they don't get up on top and kind of help me soft lock. And then I'm going to pick it up from there. Just hit the corners of these switches. Okay, it looks like one of them... Sorry, it's kind of hard for me to hit. One of them looks like they got up there and died, but that's okay. It's actually a little bit easier to do it if just one enemy is alive, so it's not a big deal. So there's... From the Tassers, it looks like people tried to clip up from that iron gate looking structure. I just move all the way to the back to have a nice normal 90-degree corner. And I just want to make sure that the enemies are approaching me from the left. And it's the same trick that you've seen in every other room. So I'm going to go ahead and save state here and see if we can do it. There you go. If both of them are alive, there's a good chance one of them will hit the other one and cause them to up warp and then chase you on this wall. So it's actually pretty normal to like get the banana key, die, and then do the room normally. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna just reload that save state just to kind of show you doing it in the same life as collecting the banana key, and then we'll do it as if you died in that segment. So got this guy chasing me. I'm gonna position the camera as close as I can. Okay, just gotta be ready to like let off the gas to do that up clip, up warp, whatever it's called. Again, I like positioning with the D-pad so I can just use strafing, and we just hit the load trigger. And we're kind of at the end of the dungeon. Let's try that one more time. You want to get it parallel to the wall as quickly as you can so that your strafing is like opposite force of what the wall would be pushing back against, right? And then we just... All right, but let's say we die here. Like you got two guys bearing down on us. Now we've got the banana key, but we still need to up warp. I just kind of run out here, get one of theirs attention, and then do the same thing. There you go. All right. Just a standard obstacle. So remember when we saved that key? Use it here. You get a whole extra life for free. And then this chest has hearts. There's no point in opening the other two chests. I think one of them has spiders and one just explodes. So you can fight this guy and he drops another heart. If you're like way low on hearts. Or you can just block, skip him, jump over and get this apple key, which you're gonna need. Or is this a cherry key? Who can say? Block here. And then there's gonna be a guy in here, also block. That's it. I mean, there's a few ways this room can go, because like sometimes the enemies will chase you, sometimes they won't. Sometimes the guy will jump over and join you over here. Sometimes they'll just jump into the lava. Sometimes you can just run by that guy and not get hit. Sometimes you'll run by and get hit. Just takes a little bit of practice. Oh boy. So here's your boss. This is Snuff, I think his name is. Snuff the Dragon. I hope that's his name, because otherwise that's weird. There's a pretty notorious skip you can do that will take some explanation. But you can just fight him. And just fighting him is just like a vanilla fight. So practice it. I guess it's worth pointing out that once you come in here and just mash through the dialogue, there is helpful stuff, even though he will be raining down on you with fire. There is a nice, I think a 5 coin in here. There's hearts on the table. I believe there's also hearts in the far, chests. If you're far enough away from him, he'll just keep spamming the fireball. So you basically want to attack him, and then just like chase him. He'll jump down. You know, you just kind of rinse and repeat this. It takes a while. It can be quick, it can be slow, just depending on where he decides to go. Watch your health, etc. But I forgot to save state before that room. Don't worry about that. Let's do this over again real quick. Yeah, see. But what we really want is speedrun tech, right? So instead what I'm gonna do is up warp by getting him off the table here, and like don't get too far away from him, and then up warp right in this corner. Okay, this is when it gets really tricky. So if we can just leave this room, but if we leave the room, we soft lock the game because we don't get the boss collection item from him, which is his fork and knife. And that's required to trigger other scripts in the game to continue the dungeon. And we can quick kill him by getting him out of bounds, but he only chases us. So like we would have to go out of bounds first. And it's not easy to get him out of bounds because there's these giant walls in the arena. So what you have to do, and trust me, this took me a lot of practice, and there's no guarantee I'm going to get this in demonstration either, is jump over to here and back up so that you are half on and half off the wall. When the door lowers, wait till Snuff gets on top of it. When he gets to the top, he's going to swing at you. You can either take a hit or just like step forward so he doesn't hit you. But after he finishes that attack, walk off. He will follow after you and hit a kill plane before the game decides you're dead and resets the room. If you just walk right off when he reaches the top, he will like wait to attack and then chase you, which is not enough time for him to hit the death plane, and the room will reset. So we'll like walk through those scenarios. If you do it right, this will happen. The sort of, oh no, he's dead, dialogue will play. He'll die, you'll get the fork and knife, then you'll die. So it does take a life from your life pool, but when you warp back into the room, the boss fight's over, and you can just run through the room and into the next section. So let's see that again in fast motion. See if I can maybe accidentally show you it not working. There's a few ways it can go wrong. Okay. So one way is that you can accidentally ride the door down, and then at that point there's almost nothing you can do. You're just kind of dead. See, so if this happens, it's like, oh no, yeah, you just kind of have to set up the whole thing again, which you're probably not going to have enough life to do. And you can see the up warp is really hard to do if he's not like angled correctly. So if you start falling off the door, run back into the arena. If you run out the exit, the game is soft lock, so don't do that. Should be good. Yeah, there you go. It takes such a light touch to get on and off. Okay, so see, he queued up an attack, I jumped. The text box starts, because he does eventually come after me, but it's too late. The game is already processing my death. I don't have the required item, and it's like I just died in the fight. And it's just a failed attempt. So again, the correct way to do it is to like upwarp on top of this wall, trigger the door going down, wait till he gets on the door, walk forward, take a hit, and that's it. That's Dragon Skip. It does require a life, so you're losing a couple lives in this dungeon just through like skips, but you can also collect a couple extra lives along the way, so not a big deal. Now, the funny part is this next room is where you're supposed to reunite, like the dude here with the dude in the cage, which you didn't find because you skipped that room, and this dude just like, yeah, whatever. Not a big deal. So you have to run up here and talk to him and then leave the room. Now, this is just a platforming challenge. You're basically going to want to run along this right wall, up these stairs, and flip this switch. And then there's a bunch of switches left in the room that you have to flip. But if you fall off, you have to do a lot of platforming to fix that. So this is the route. I'm just going to demonstrate the route I follow, because I feel like it's the easiest to set up. Okay, you know what? Momentum and like angle is very important to get right here. If you fall and you miss this switch, you kind of have to run like an entire lap around the room again. That's why I like to lock the camera and then just use the D-pad for most of the movement in this room. And I just kind of get a little momentum, and then the box should be here. I like to try to run and jump and land on the box, because you need to be on top of the box for the last two, next to last switch. Okay, want to get enough distance here right when it stops. Run forward, jump, rotate to the right, and then you can try to make this jump. Oh, yeah. Usually I hit enough friction there where you have to run around the stairs. Up to you if you want to go for it or not. This is the last switch. Now you can follow the conveyor belt all the way back because you want to get to the other side of the room now that you've reversed the conveyor belt. However, if you fall, you have to return to these stairs. So what I like to do is just jump off, just kind of give it up, and then run to the far stairs, get on the conveyor belt, and just exit. No platforming mistakes can be had in that way, and you can easily recover. So just run up these stairs. You're gonna have 3 dialogue boxes with this kid, or 2 dialogue, I guess. Open this chest for a free extra life. And that's the dungeon. Just mash here. This rat is gonna take you to some dude that I don't remember who gives you a nice sword. The blacksmith. You can mash through all this. It automatically equips the sword for you. And then you're just gonna like walk forward, turn a little bit to the right, and then your exit is right here. Okay, so that's Poor Luck Village done. We're gonna immediately return to Seatown. Because in order to beat the game, not only do you have to beat 4 dungeons, you also have to revisit those areas and beat the Dark Knights to turn them back to the True Knights. And because we have to go back to the King and Queen anyway to unlock the 3rd area, it's just slightly faster routing to just go ahead and go back to Seatown now so that you don't have to walk back twice. I suppose you could do it at any point that you go back to talk to the King and Queen. I'm not 100% sure about that or how the game unlocks stuff, but it's just easiest to do it now. This is a pretty trivial split as well. You also get health back here. So if you're low on health after the end of the boss fights, it's very straightforward. So you just turn a little bit. I don't remember how much. Yep, you're gonna wanna run to the right of this otter, around this duck, and then just strike this wench. I'm not gonna comment on the physical possibility of what we're watching, but go into this ship, head clockwise around the room. The first 2 enemies will just take 1 strike. You have to hit these little switches. I think the 3rd enemy will take 2 strikes. And then teleport. All right, we're gonna fight Rex. Seems like a lot of enemies you can get into a stun lock. I take a hit from these clouds because it makes him come down to fight you immediately if you take a hit from the lightning in the clouds. A lot of RNG here. I like to aim a little bit to the left because your hitbox is actually on the right side of your body, it seems like. So aiming a little bit to the left actually aims the sword's hitbox to the middle. That's it, that's Rex. You should have full health, so it's very easy to take hits from the cloud, and then you just mash through. And just run to the left of the otter, into the foxhole, and then go talk to the King and Queen to open the 3rd area. I think we have some time for donations. There's a little bit to do in the 3rd town before you can enter the dungeon, unlike the other towns. You can see that we still have a banana key and a pineapple key, and we're not going to use either one of them in the 3rd dungeon. The 3rd dungeon is actually like a nice little relaxing time once you learn the skips and tricks, because it's really short and pretty fun to execute on. All right, they're going to open the 2nd gate. So even though this is the 3rd dungeon, remember Seatown is not here, so we're going to the 2nd foxhole. Technically, if you're off on a jump, you can like strafe in midair to fix it. I'm just not usually fast enough to react to it. Got a little mashing when we start. I think 3 text boxes. And then we're just gonna turn to the right and run in this first building next to the coffee pot. This is the coffee shop. We're gonna talk to Hera. 3 text boxes, we get a cup of coffee. There's also a bunch of like root beer drinkers in this town, and the root beer was poisoned. So they're all really tired and grumpy, but the coffee lovers are in heaven. So we're bringing Tough Nut here a cup of coffee, who then unlocks the door to the mayor's office. I'm gonna talk to the mayor with Circle. Smash through. Sober Sid. I actually don't know if it's the mayor. It's Sober Sid. He gives you a password. And just continue running up the hill. Camera's a little weird when you exit. And then like 3 text boxes here. Hop good. You give him the password and you're in. We're into the monastery, the root beer monastery. You kind of have to talk to a few people. You have to talk to Ivan for 3 text boxes. You have to talk to Tim for 3 text boxes. I think this is 5. Yeah, he gives you a key. This is why I don't think having the grape key or whatever is good, because I think you have to progress the story to get this key for this to all work anyway, even if you could bring a key in. Who knows, though? And then the door to the dungeon's open, and we proceed. We're gonna want to run Caddy Corner, so all the way across the room. There's actually 3 rooms you have to do in any order, but we're gonna try to optimize that order. So all the way in the corner, and then just hang a left and like walk immediately in the next door. And this is where it gets fun. So this is one of the only tricks that I came up with myself. So like, if there's a better setup for this, this is probably the one that has the most potential for a better setup. This is not in any of the task videos. We haven't come up with a good name for it. I think the best name we've come up for it is Quick Weed. I gotta get the word rad in there somewhere, but maybe, I don't know, we'll workshop it. There's this one. There's 3 herbs you have to collect, in one in each of the 3 rooms you have to do. And this one is actually in behind a wall, and these walls stretch up really high. So first we're gonna try to upwarp. We're gonna try to upwarp in the corner on the left side of the room. I'm going to use strafing to get around the enemies in the room, and then try to keep the camera parallel to the bars so we can upwarp. Okay, well, I don't usually take a damage there, but let's try it. Okay, we made it. And sometimes the enemy does come up here and kill you. It happens. It doesn't lose a lot of time to retry a few times here, but it's worth doing. I mean, this room is like minutes long if you don't skip it, so. Okay, now the problem is you can't see anything when you're up here. Like, nothing. I believe Kingsley is looking at the herb. So you can try to like position his fox face to look at it. You can also... You can see how high we are up here if you look in first person. You can technically use this to position to look at the herb as well. But, you know, it's really hard to see, and this takes a lot of time. So what I'm about to show you is a blind setup, okay? But it's just muscle memory, so I'll see how many times I can pull it off, and at least you can glean what I'm doing from my inputs in the video. So when I'm up here, I kind of do a 1 1/4 shimmy to the right, like that, and then I walk backwards. And it wasn't far enough. Okay, that's the first time I've failed that since coming back to run this game this month. That's okay. It's probably because my muscle memory is doing it all in one motion. Okay. I think the upwarp there was a little angled. I want to get that thing parallel if you can. Okay. There you go. So you walk back. You don't have a lot of momentum when you're walking backwards, and you should fall right on. Let's do that a few more times. So you're wanting to up warp on top of the wall, strafe a little bit to the right, and walk backwards to fall off. And there's no visual, so you just kind of have to feel it out. There you go. One more time. It's something you'll just have to practice. You might be able to come up with your own sort of visual or audio cue for it, or you could take the extra time to line up from on top of the wall. But once you get it, you'll die, you'll warp back into this room, and then you just run along this wall and go into the last door on the right. Since you just died, you'll have full health. There are a bunch of hearts in this chest, but there's no reason to pick them up. Now, normally, I would say run all the way caddy corner. Don't worry about these guys. And then jump on this, right? And then what you want to do, basically, is every time you kill the scorpion or beetle or whatever that is on each pillar, the next pillar is going to come up. If you want, you can run over to this corner of the room, and there's an extra life. If you take too much damage, there is a heart over here. But those are optional, and obviously it's a bit slower to take that. So you can actually jump over before they emerge from the acid, but you can't dispatch the beetle until they show up, which is once it's done animating. That's a checkpoint. Oof, okay. Platforming is difficult in this game. You don't actually have to wait and kill that guy. Just run over and hit the switch. He will usually jump off and then just die. So that's how you recover with strafing. That was not intentional. So you're gonna wanna jump on this barrel and just walk in and then backflip, which will put you right on the barrel, turn, run back, get a little bit of momentum, leave the room. Pretty straightforward. Gonna wanna turn, continue around the edge. This is our last room. This is a little bit of a puzzle room. Walk over here, get this enemy's attention, get him to walk up on the wall so he'll jump off and die. Then purple switch, then just run down and do the red one, blue, and yellow. So it's the first one and the last three. Grab the herb, and now we have all three herbs. Turn right, drop down. Just run in here. Mash through the dialogue. Tim's gonna turn into the bat, Clarence. And here's what we're gonna do. This center room is where we normally fight Clarence. The fight's really long, as is any boss fight in this game. Instead, what we're going to do is take advantage of the fact that this game, for whatever reason, loads about half of the rooms surrounding this room just for like visual effect. Like you can see, we're kind of in the main room, but also the room we just left is sort of loaded. We're going to use Clarence's attack to clip through one of these iron gate doors and into a section of the second room we did, the one with all the acid. That's only like half there, maybe a third there. We're going to jump on one of the barrels and wait. And then Clarence is going to run toward us and just fall into the lava and die instantly. So let's see it in fast motion, and then I'll kind of maybe run through it a couple times. So you're going to run over this little coffin. Kind of wedge into this corner. All right, good enough. That's it. See it again. There's a lot of like shaking, because that's just what the game likes to do. Like occasionally, if you don't do it right, or if you're just off by a little bit, he will just show up and like make it over to your barrel. But if you die, you can just repeat the process. Oh no. Here, this is, now we're just practicing. Yeah, perfect. Very fast boss fight. Position toward the door. Just run through the room. I like to strafe over to this middle door. And then you're just gonna run through this last room. Just head right at this enemy. Just strafe around him. Just to move through his hitbox. Gonna mash through when we exit into the monastery again. He's like, wow, thank you so much. We get the bow and arrow, which it immediately equips. So just switch back to your sword real quick before you forget. And then exit World 3. Easiest way to do that is just kind of run down this hill. Problem is you're not really well positioned here, so you gotta kind of get to the stairs, turn awkwardly, and then run back up. Getting in the foxholes is like the worst part. All right, just like finishing World 2, we're gonna immediately go do one of the Dark Knights. And this time we'll do it in World 2. So we kind of stagger like that. We do World 1, then we do World 2, then go back and do Dark Knight 1. Then we did World 3, we go back and do Dark Knight 2. So we're gonna turn left here. Follow this little pathway. And then jump here. Just mash through that text. This boss fight is pretty trivial. Even with 1 heart, I'm pretty sure I'll be fine. I'll save state here just in case. This is Judas, I think? Yeah. Mash through 3 text box. Try to get 2 hits in each time. Follow him to wherever he goes. Ignore everything he's doing. Just get those 2 hits in. And eventually, when you get close to the end of his life, he'll just keep attacking, and then you just mash through. That's it. So we have 3 levels down and 2 Dark Knights. You can follow the cobblestone pathway again. Just kind of the way we came into the level. Oh, that was perfect. Let's go. So unfortunately, we still only have 1 heart going into the hardest dungeon, but there's an easy solution to that. Don't worry about it. There's actually a death warp we're going to want to take like pretty early in the 4th dungeon. So going in with low health, as long as you're confident about the moves you need to make through the dungeon, not a problem. Gotta initiate the conversation yourself. Turn around and they'll say, yep, we'll open aphasia for you. At the beginning of aphasia, you're gonna want to turn to the right, even though almost the entire level is to your left. That's because Cornflower, the sheep wizard, will be kind of roaming around on that side of the level. You gotta talk to him to open the dungeon. The hardest dungeon in the game, and the only reason you're going in there is to get his coat. Or jacket, I went to the wrong side. We're getting there, we're getting there. At this point, we're only about halfway through the speedrun. So the last dungeon and then the boss cleanup is a significant portion of the time invested in the run. So we're gonna just mash through his dialogue. He opens the dungeon and we go inside. Now I'm gonna quickly toggle the camera because it starts off in a very strange angle. Run forward, get past this first pusher and block twice. And then run past. Gonna want to block here as well. If you have extra hearts and you're not gonna take a death, I would just run past the last guy here. But if you're at 1 heart like I am right now, just block and run past. So this is where our extra keys will come in very handy. So I'm actually gonna skip this heart. If you wanna take it for safety, that's fine. I wanna be able to death warp easier. So I'm going to hold forward on the D-pad through this entire room. I'm going to strafe to the right, and then I'm just going to use Coyote frames, you know, to jump at the last possible second or toward the end of my range to clear every platform. It's going to look scary. The game lags a little bit. It's unfortunate. The camera skews to make it look like you're not running straight. You just sort of have to trust. I'm going to save state here just in case. And we'll see it in motion. That's it. And without juking the camera. Okay, see, you don't want to rub up against the wall, but you want to just be as far to the right as you can be. You can see why I like to juke the camera. I feel like there's a lot less lag, and okay, I didn't do it in one smooth motion. Save states can be your worst enemy sometimes. As long as you don't stop moving from the time you walk into the room, you'll never run into any of these. There you go. And then that's our banana key from the second dungeon. We skip all of this room and an auxiliary room you have to go to. Okay. I like to strafe over here and get that coin. We're going to pause here. For some reason, these two treasure chests are not the same distance away from the wall. You can't get behind the one on the left. You can barely fit behind the one on the right. And something about the way the collision models work, you can wedge your face into the 90-degree corner, turn the camera just a little bit, and jump. This is one of the most inconsistent up warps in the game, and I've had to practice it quite a bit. I like to use the D-pad for setup, just so I know I have full force pushing forward and then immediately off when I succeed. So I'm going to let you see it in motion a few times, and you'll probably see me succeed and fail a few times. The scorpions make it extra scary. Okay, good. So it failed. So the way you recover from this is you just kind of back up, run forward. There you go. I'm just holding forward, jumping, and letting go of holding forward, because if I hold forward, I'll just walk right off. Yeah, sometimes it'll just push you out, even if you feel like you have it completely aligned correctly. Yeah, I don't know. This one's just weird. I used to think that turning the camera slightly, you know, made that more consistent. But once you get up here, you just want to fall off the door a little bit to the right. If you walk down the wall, it won't actually load out. I want to demonstrate that. It's kind of weird how this one works. This room isn't particularly long either, so if you love doing this room, I mean, by all means. So that works too. I hate this one so much. If anybody comes up with a like super consistent way to do this, please tell me. So if you just follow the wall here, you just kind of walk into another part of the level. It's very weird. There's like no load zone back there. The load zone is just on the other side of that grate. It seems to be almost like a sub-pixel thing, or just like a weird, like I'm not changing the controls. Sometimes it just clips you out, sometimes it doesn't. There's probably a better, more consistent setup for this, but just walk off the door, we're good. Yes, I'll be running this on Friday for a marathon. So this room is actually pretty free. There's no threat to you at all. You have an acute angle to wedge into. You got to do some weird camera trickery, but you can take as much time as you want to get this one. This is one of the hardest rooms in the game. Super annoying, super cool skip. I'm going to go ahead and save state here. We're just going to turn around, wedge into this corner. Again, if you don't get the wedge, just wiggle back and forth, okay? Now I'm going to hold right strafe, turn the camera until it disappears, backflip. We're on the wall. And then this, you don't want to fall in there because you'll take damage and have to wait for that wall to fall. You can keep running on the wall, or you can load in like that, okay? So you wedge in, hold right. I'm actually only holding strafe. Backflip. You can just follow the wall too. It's a little bit faster if you fall off in the door though. Let's try it one more time, just so you have a few options to look at. See, if I just hold strafe too early, I'll pop out of the wall. I have to be holding forward until I get in there, and then once the camera starts turning, I can just hold strafe, backflip. See, if I fall down here, I take too much damage, so we don't want to do that. Nice. Okay, so 2 major skips back to back, and then what is probably the longest and hardest room in the game, we just use our free pineapple key and skip. And this is why this run is better than playing the game casually. Okay, so here's why we've tried to maintain low health this whole time. We need to go get this red cherry key. And then it's not too long to beat this room, but if you have low health, you can just jump off. Death warp back to the beginning of the room, which only takes a few seconds. And we already have the red key. And we're out. Now, if you have full health, it might be worth just doing the room, saving your life, and maybe potentially getting enough coins to get an extra life. I haven't timed it out, but it does take a while to kind of whittle your life down. Your iframes last for a long time. Okay, so this room, we're gonna want to flip this switch. An enemy will show up back here, and we're gonna use that enemy to up warp right here, and then sort of run around the whole arena to the door. Pretty straightforward at this point. No special tech here. Okay, well, don't do that, but you get the idea. Okay, and there's quite a bit of a walk to this. I like to just hold forward and strafe. It looks scarier than it is. And then just strafe off the wall. That's it. Now, technically, if earlier in that room, if you end up falling into the room where the banana key is, collect it, run around, collect the coins. There's like a golem in there. Try to get him to pop you back out through the wall, because then you can just use the key as intended and leave the room. If you end up dying, that's okay. You have the key. Just run to the door, open the door as normal. So as soon as you enter this room, switch to your bow and arrow, and then try to hit this guy on the first cycle. I just barely missed. You have to wait for him to come back around. That's okay. Leave the bow and arrow out. Yeah, this is a fun run. They're fun room ahead. So I'm gonna immediately trigger this switch to start this thing coming over, and then I'm gonna take this guy out. Hopefully you have enough arrows too. If you don't, exhaust your arrows, run over and get more. Oh, that was painful. You know what? I'm gonna reset this room. I want to assume you're coming in here with a decent amount of health, because you've death warped from the cherry key. You haven't taken much damage since. Okay, so we're gonna run up again, trigger this, take this guy out. He'll almost always miss you for some reason. Exhaust your arrows. You have to have 0 arrows to be able to pick up more. Jump on this thing, get it running again. Now, there's another guy shooting arrows at you. This is one of those rooms you're just gonna have to practice a lot. Even at this, I probably practiced this room 100 times and I still hate it. I'm gonna try to show you the fastest way I know to consistently do it. When we get to the other side of this, we're going to just run counterclockwise, completely skip this guy, ignore him as quickly as you can, you know, just kind of move around so he doesn't hit you, hit the target across the way, and once you get to the other side, you should be safe from him. Alright, well, maybe not. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So you want to line this up. If I look down my sights right now, there's 2 arrow guys at the other end of the hallway that will start shooting at me. For some reason, looking down the hallway in first person triggers them. What I'm going to do is run, hit that checkpoint, jump to the other side, aim down sights. My camera's going to be aligned a little bit too low. I'm going to raise it up and start strafing to the right. When my target aligns, I'm going to pull the trigger on the arrow, or on the bow and arrow, hit the target, and then immediately try to do a triple platform jump. So where I stop to aim, strafing to the right so I don't get hit by the 2 archers, and then turning and making the full leap across the whole platform is just something you'll have to practice. I'm not even sure if it's the right way to do it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go ahead and save state here and then try to do the whole thing. And quickly you need to shoot this or this wall won't fall enough. And that's the room. Let's do it one more time. Because no 2 times is it going to look the same. See, now that was too far. That was too risky for me to go for the 3rd platform. If you fall, you come all the way back to the wall. Then these guys are shooting at you. It's chaos. You don't want that to happen. So be confident about your jumps. If you don't think you're going to make the jump, just stay on the 1st or 2nd platform. Take the time loss. I'm going to stop right where the gravel changes from like gray to light gray. That's where I'm going to target. Okay. Sometimes it eats your jumps. Let's try that again. Missed. Okay. Did I mention you have to practice this room? I'm just gonna take this guy out very quickly. Okay, platform is leaving, so we missed the cycle. Gonna exhaust the arrows, refill. And that's the room. We'll try one more time. Got hit by one of their arrows. It threw off my whole rhythm. Yeah, it's very tricky. I'm not even sure if it's right to advise that you hit all 3 platforms in one attempt. Okay, I didn't even walk far enough forward that time. Yeah, the ropes have a really large hitbox, and aiming with tank controls is very difficult to do consistently. So if you want to play it ultra safe, you can follow this technique and just do the first 2, and then just wait. You can hold up your shield if you want. Alright, I think I have enough arrows to not even worry about getting a refill. Might have been too late on the target here. Nah, we're good. One more time, just for good measure. I might edit some of these attempts out. What do you mean? All the attempts you just saw were all of my attempts, of course. Jeez. In my PB, currently as I'm recording this, I did not make this jump. I tried to go for the 3rd jump, and then I fell, and then had to redo all the platforms, and it ended up wasting me more time than I was able to save in the first place. So that's the safe way. Might not be the fastest way to pull off the room, but you get the idea. Unfortunately, this room then leads into one of the most annoying rooms in the game, mostly because it's just really slow. There's not much you can do to speed the room up. There's no up warps you can do to take advantage of, to like skip anything. And you need to be ready to execute on the next room as soon as the load screen pulls. So again, I use the camera lock to be able to see at the last moment where I can jump. Almost all these jumps require you to be like on the verge of using coyote frames to jump. So it's unfortunately just really tight. A lot of D-pad usage to make sure I'm always, you know, not drifting, just walking straight. So this guy can't really hit you. It's just like not a big deal. You don't even really need to kill him. You just kind of hold your shield up and then just run past him. Archers can't aim up or down in this game, so they don't really pose a threat. I'm gonna push this block, just block this guy. You can technically just run past him. I just like to block him just to make sure I don't get taken by surprise. Again, a tough jump there. Now, you can kill this guy and get a heart from him if you want to get some health back. There's a couple ways you can handle it. So you can block his shot. He'll tear you up pretty quickly if you're not careful. He only takes like 4 or 5 hits. Yeah, 5 hits, and then you get a heart. Or you can run past him, jump over here, let him die, and then continue. So I think that's faster. He's gonna just aggro to you constantly otherwise. You gotta push this block forward from the original side you approach it, and then pull this one out. You don't have to pull it all the way out. You just have to pull it out enough to be able to squeeze between it. And then that's the room. Okay, let's talk about the next room. I'm gonna just do it once, then I'll walk you through it slowly. Let's see if I can do it first try. Ah, it's too far. Let's try one more time. All right, basically, you're gonna hold forward on the D-pad, jump on just the very left edge of that first platform, which gives you just enough height and like direction to land on the second platform, and then make it to the third platform, grab the extra life, jump across, kill this guy, and then the rest of the room is pretty straightforward. So we'll get there in a second. So watch how I use the right strafing again. I start walking into the room, I let the room load in, and then just kind of strafe off the edge. And it's just a straight line. You're making a straight line between all 3 of those platforms. This is actually a little setup I came up with to make this less scary. You don't have to do any turning. You're just holding forward and strafing. You can make minor corrections if you feel you're a little off. One more time. Take this guy out, switch to your bow and arrow, and if you can... Oh, nope, just kidding. Make sure to jump over here first. Yeah. Try to take this guy out. You don't strictly have to. It doesn't waste a ton of time if you have to, like, keep your sword out. But then you can refill your arrows and not have him to worry about. You have to shoot these 2 targets, and then this is a very dangerous jump. You need to make sure you're at the height. Oh, and then we're done. So let's see the whole room one more time. This one is an easy one to practice, because if you make a save state right between the load zone, you can just get back in. I tried to do mid-air correction with strafing, didn't quite work out. In my PB, I failed this twice. but still manage to get a really good time, so don't be too intimidated by it. But again, it's just something you can very easily practice. Okay. Now we have the earthquake room. Because I'm very low health, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the health immediately. We're gonna run up here and head to the right. We're gonna go regular clockwise. There's a key in each corner. You can kind of strafe off the edge and just run back up this ramp. You're gonna take damage at some point, it's inevitable. Just try to be quick about it. Yep, there you go. All right, once you have all 4 keys, you should be able to run down this ramp and then just start putting them in, which is great fun to try to do because the game is constantly thinking you're moving. I cannot afford to get hit here, so I'm just being really careful. And then once all 4 keys are in, bro, you're gonna wait for the coast being clear here when this thing comes bumbling back down. Run up. All right. Last room in the game, last challenging room. Just block this guy. There's almost no threat in this room. It's just very long. You're almost at the end of the dungeon. You know, you have to aim. Sometimes that doesn't hit the hitbox. This is also tight timing, so you gotta be used to this. Even though I'm at 1 heart, I'm actually not super worried about it. Gonna run over here. I'm gonna ignore this guy and just shoot this target and run back and jump on the platform. The run back and jumping on the platform can be kind of scary. It's very hard to consistently turn Kingsley in a certain direction. So there's a guy right here I'm gonna immediately block, then just run and get back on the platform. 99 times out of 100, he will just jump to his death. And then we run past, about halfway up the stairs. There's another target in the corner. And then we have to make the leap of faith again. I don't think we ever need arrows again, really, in any meaningful way. But I always refill them here. And guess what? There's another hidden guy here. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. If he does make it over onto the platform with you, that's okay. Just proceed like it didn't happen. Maybe just block him and then he won't make it back over. Press this switch and we're good. All right, this is the last room. This is like the jail cell. There's a neat little skip here. Just wedge your face in here and jump. Okay, let's try that again. I'm gonna save state just in case something goes wrong here. There you go. Now you're gonna take damage falling off this. Should only be half of a heart. That just skips you having to run all the way up and talking to the characters in the jail. If you're low health, mash through this dialogue with Reggie and just die. Now this fight is tricky. Again, it's just a boss fight. There's no like cool speedrun tricks to it. It's just something you need to practice and learn the moves. If he teleports away from attacking you, he's probably going to send a shockwave attack out. So be ready to jump. There's 4 hearts around the arena you can get if you start to run low on health. You're just going to have to like make your best judgment. Make sure you don't have arrows still equipped when you go into the fight. All right, I guessed wrong. almost always leads with that explosion. Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna show you a visual cue that I picked up not too long ago at the end of this fight. If you have like 3 or more hearts, you're probably fine here. You don't really need to pick up hearts in the arena if there are any left. If you are desperate for lives, you can go open these chests, which have coins in them. Right, so there's an extra life for us. Probably won't need it at this point, but if you want it for practice, that's okay. So the visual cue I like is if you're standing in this middle of the room and you're like, which way do I go? Because both ends of this room look the same to me. You see the little like wood knots in the wood, how they kind of make an like a forward slash if you're looking down this hallway? That's not the way you want to go. You see how it's just kind of blotchy on this side? There's no like defined swoosh. It's just kind of a little blotch of them in the middle. That's the way you want to go. And Bad Custard's just chilling for us here. It's 1 text box to mash through, and we exit. Congrats, if you've made it this far, you're pretty much out of the scary part. Not entirely, but pretty much. So we're gonna start at the beginning of the world, but we're gonna turn around and go deliver this coat to, what is his name? I forgot. Cornflower? That's right. We're gonna go into his little book house. We're gonna have to initiate conversation, and then this chest has hearts in it. Okay. I'm not gonna demonstrate this one a bunch of times because I hate this, but we're about to sequence break, and it's gonna require some mashing, and this is where I just kind of wish we had turbo, but you know, it is what it is. So we're gonna run over by this tree. It's the first tree on the bank. We're gonna see this little divot in the sand here. We're gonna try to make this jump. I'm gonna save state here. You're gonna have to practice with a setup and an angle. Essentially what we're gonna do is just mash jump when we jump across, and you're gonna wanna occasionally strafe to the left to kind of, because that can kind of help push you up that little ridge that we wanna get on top of. There you go. It sucks. I'm sorry that you have to do it. If you want, lobby for turbo support. I'll be with you. But it's possible with practice, okay? I like to use like an Elite controller, an 8BitDo controller, something with extra buttons you can map to A. You know, something you can mash a little bit easier. It turns out it's kind of hard to mash Xbox controllers. It's a little bit easier to mash like original PlayStation controllers. So if you're playing this on console, it might be a little easier to mash. Unsure. But once you're over here, we're sequence broken, and now we're doing the 4th Dark Knight. Normally you'd have to get Cornflower to make you a bridge across that river. So I like to circle strafe up this, get the golden arrow, make sure you hit that eye. If you don't, you have to kind of like go get the arrow on the other side for the other one to spawn. Oh my god. Now, whenever it's gonna move a cutscene, but you can actually just jump off the tower while the camera like direction change moves, and then you'll just be on the ground. Okay, the cycle here is very tight. I'm gonna actually save state in motion here. I'm gonna grab this block, move it to the center of the room, and then jump quickly to both of these little honeycomb depressions on either side of me. If you don't do this like virtually instantly, the bees will show up and like almost one-shot you. push it to about right here. It doesn't really need to go all the way. You get the apple key. And the bees pretty much leave you alone as long as you're not in one of the 3 like receptacles. So then you just run over and make sure to switch back to your sword before you fight Gustav, which is the next boss in here. I'm gonna save state here. So let me show you what happens if you delay just a little bit in executing this. Two hits by the bees kill you. 2 hits. You see the bees already in here? He would have killed me. So I'd say it looks like they show up to this one first. So do that one first. Right? Like, pull the block of honey. I'm not sure what this is. Over the keyhole. Go to the left. Turn around. Would die for a quick turn in this game. You should be fine, because the bees don't just like drift over here immediately. And then, you know, quickly grab this block. You do have limited time to pick up the green key. Anyway, you get the idea. So now we get to fight Gustav. If you have decent health, block his axe, and then go in for as many swings as you can. It's a tough fight. This one is so RNG. Sometimes I feel like I can get him in a stun lock like this, right? But you're gonna have to chase him eventually. Be careful to make sure you can jump on these moving platforms. If you land down in like the middle, you will, like, the bees will just kill you in like 2 hits. Block every time he throws the axe. And that's Gustav. Let's try it one more time, just to show you how different the RNG can be sometimes. See, he tries to jump away almost immediately. There is a heart floating around here that you can get if you need it. He'll throw the axe. You can pretty safely jump down here. You can see how long these fights, the variability of how long the fights take is crazy. But you see how when I kind of angle a little bit to the left, I can get more hits in? The hitbox just seems to combo a little bit faster. That's what I would recommend. My PB would have been like a minute faster if I'd had that fight in it. Smash through. Now, you're going to have to take about a heart of damage here to get back to the mainland. So if you have less than a heart, like, drop into the water down here as soon as possible. Otherwise, run along the bank. You're looking for a brown leaf tree, this one. Take a left, drop into the water. You'll be teleported back to the other side. And then into the foxhole. Okay, we're done with aphasia and it's Dark Knight. We only have one Dark Knight left. And that conveniently is the next one we find. Now this one looks pretty plain when you come out of the foxhole, like where do I go? You go just slightly to the left. You just want to go around this little hill, through these trees. It's pretty awkward geometry over to this pad. Now, I have lost so much time here. In my PB, I saved something like 40 seconds by not messing up here. This is tough. But I'm going to show you maybe the fastest way. Okay, that wasn't it. I'm definitely going to cut a bunch of these out. There you go. That's super risky though, right? Like, you probably don't want to just risk your whole run on like being able to execute on that once. You mess it up just a little bit and you're screwed. And you can do this entirely with strafing and D-pad movement, right? If you want to practice it enough to where you have that down perfectly, fine. But if you're nerves or anything like mine, if you're like 2 minutes ahead, you're just going to mess this up a bunch. So what I would suggest instead is strafing a little bit, turning just a little bit. You get the idea though. That's doing it that way is not much slower, but you get a beat to kind of make sure you're jumping in the right direction. And it's good. One more time. You're basically skipping the second gym, the fourth gym, walking to the sixth gym, and then just kind of strafe jumping over to the seventh gym. And it will automatically take you into the boss fight. This boss is an auto-scroller. So you're gonna mash, switch to your bow and arrow, and aim. He's gonna do this little animation. 1, 2, 3, fire. Sometimes it doesn't hit. I don't understand it. What is going on with the hitbox? This never happens to me. I guess I usually aim kind of low. I always think I'm aiming a little low, but... I guess aim more towards his feet is the answer. No variation here at all. Yeah, I guess that's the answer, is the hitbox is just more consistent, a little closer to his feet. I guess that kind of makes sense because you're like knocking the eggs out of his talons, but I guess I just assumed his body was the hitbox. Wow, you can literally just hit the egg too. Okay, we're all learning something here. Anyway, you don't need to worry too much about this boss fight. Even if you mess it up royally, you can recover in a variety of ways. It's just annoying at the end of the game that you have to kind of sit through an auto-scroller, but it's okay. Just take a breath. You've done all the hard work. I don't know what that clicking noise was. Maybe the egg dropped something special. I don't know. This is a game called Kingsley's Adventure from 1999. We're recording a little speedrun guide. And that's it. So he's gonna fly down here, and then you just mash through the dialogue. He'll turn to Sir Gawain, if I'm pronouncing that right. It was on PS1, correct.
Okay.
And with that, we are ready to go to the final boss. So you kind of have to do a 180 here, run between the tree and these kids, run down by the coffee pot, and then our little buddy. Make the tight jump here. Then we just need to go back to the king and queen. You're gonna have to talk to them essentially twice, because you need to get like rewarded for beating all of the levels essentially and becoming a true knight. And then you need to sort of initiate dialogue with them to say, oh, also I've defeated all the Dark Knights. Can mash through some dialogue here. Not much of it, but there's no threat of overmashing here. So as soon as you get control back, you're just gonna spin 180. And then I believe you don't even have to initiate conversation. There's just 4 dialogue boxes and you're off to the races. So luckily, there's not much to worry about. I do want to switch back to my sword, but there's not much to worry about Bad Custard. Because there's actually lots of life in his arena too. So even if you go in with really low health, I would recommend that you take some damage and just kind of like lose a life. Unless you're on a threat of game over. And in some cases, it's even worth game overing. Just like dying in the surf around the island. Just to make sure you have like the best possible attempt you can. This is actually really hard to jump into for some reason. But with 4 hearts, I should be able to do it. Strangely, the entire island, this is called Skull Island, is modeled. You can run around the beach. Like, you can run around the entire island. There's nothing there that I know of. Maybe there is. I don't know. You can just run up these steps, too. You don't have to jump. And then you're right into the boss fight. You're going to get mashed through 3 text boxes, and then you're going to want to do 1-2 combos up to a certain point. I'm going to go ahead and save state here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, his health's you're gonna turn 180 and meet him here in just 1 swing. And then turn 180 again, go up this, and then you're gonna head, okay, he didn't make the jump yet. You're gonna head counterclockwise. 1 swing, and then past him. You'll see a pattern emerge here. So you can actually just wait for him to jump across here if you want. Get 1 swing in. One more swing. We're down to 2.5 hearts. Not great, but I'm gonna try to tough it out. Dude. Okay. So on each level, you basically get a quick hit on him, and then you have to run counterclockwise a little bit longer to get the last hit. So we got the quick hit on the last level. We're on like the 3rd level now. We're gonna run around here. I'm probably gonna take a little bit of damage. He's gonna jump across. Now, when he's got 1 sliver of health left, he's looking for like the last stand for him, right? So you need to follow him. And then 1 strike, and that is time. So everything from here you can watch with ease because you have completed Kingsley's adventure at any percent. Good job. Let's watch that Bad Custard fight one more time. Let's say I just kind of mash here. I'm gonna see if I can generate a little bit different RNG here. Because, you know, controls are wonky. You're never gonna get exactly the same fight. You see how I went out of my way for a little bit of health? I stressed a little bit because I just like immediately took damage. Once you hit him, you just keep running counterclockwise. And once you get that 2nd hit in per floor, he's gonna move up a floor. So then you want to turn around and go up a level. Oh no. Now he's somewhere over here. We only have 1.5 hearts, so this is kind of dangerous. But we'll give it our best shot. If he's near a gap, just wait for him to jump over. Okay, and now we're just following him to the ending. That's it. There's a bunch of different like ways you can cycle him. You know, everything's on kind of a global timer. He kind of follows the same patterns, but like in my PB, I ended up getting the last hit on him very close to the plank he wanted to walk down. There's probably still a lot that could be done to optimize that fight or to understand exactly how all the RNG works. Check out the previous world record run, or gosh, let me check his name real quick. Elsiz, E-L-S-I-Z. The run he ran on July 18th, 2020 has a pretty good textbook, as far as we know, bad custard fight, and I learned a lot of like the cycles and kind of where to run from that run. So give that a shot if you're having some trouble. But I do think there's probably more to learn and to optimize in that fight, because I saved a bunch of time and I don't really know why. So that's probably a pretty good sign. But yeah, I don't know how much longer I'll be running this game. This is just kind of like me distilling what I know into a guide. But if you need any help, if you're confused about how anything works, leave a comment or reach out and I'll try my best to add some context. Otherwise, enjoy this silly little Fox game and good luck.